Welcome to Amalgam Hour, the movie and com podcast. I'm Robin.
And I'm Dan.
So, we're finally here. A huge finale's just happened, huge in quotes. Because then Doctor Strange came out and Moon Knight's no longer relevant. But, if you, the viewer of this episode, has watched any other episode, you know this is my favourite character. I mention it every single fucking episode of this show because I've got some sort of problem. So, let's finally review a show by starting at episode 1, which we do already have a review for, but we'll have a quick synopsis and then give a single word, and then we'll go on to the next one. Go on, Dan. Episode 1. What did you think about it?
Episode 1. Okay, Stephen Grant learns that he may be a superhero, but may also share a body with a... There you go. I'm done.
You just read the description. That doesn't help. No.
Yeah, you said a summary. I'm done.
The episode 1 is pretty much just Stephen Grant living a horrible life, cutting in and out of reality like no other fucker does. And I'm just going to say it. This has the WandaVision problem. Now that I've watched the finale, I will never want to watch episode 1 again. There's no Moon Knight, there's no Khonshu, there's just Stephen Grant being dorky British guy zipping in and out of reality. The screen vibrates for a minute, and then all of a sudden I'm in a scene where there's just a little bit of blood, and there was no action. Except from
surrounded by corpses.
Yeah, except a car chase scene. This episode, I wish it was 20 minutes of episode 1. Do you get what I mean? Not gonna lie, from episode... this is jumping ahead a bit, but from episode 1 to episode 3, I wish it was condensed all into one episode. That's just my opinion, but Dan, what's yours?
It's alright. It's not the best.
Yeah. Do you get what I mean, though, that is the WandaVision problem?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I ain't going back to watch a 60s sitcom. I ain't going back to see bumbling Stephen Grant in a museum. I'm okay. I'm good.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Jump straight to episode 2.
Everything was chilling.
Exactly. Episode 2, Summon the Suit. Dan, what happened? And you read the description, I swear to God, I'll punch you in the throat.
Fuck, what? Actually, I can't remember episode 2.
Exactly. Because it's the same as episode 1. Bumbly, 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 bum.
Get the dog. Whatever it is. It was a good scene.
A jackal. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Sorry, it's a dog.
He goes to the container unit, sees Khonshu, gets wrecked by Max Spector, realizes his life's a freaking mess, and pretty much, I, not gonna lie, seeing Max Spector on screen did give me a bit of a giggle. Do you know what I mean? I enjoyed it. Seeing him on screen, I was like, yes, I'm okay. And then it cut back to a bumbling British guy, and I'm like, oh, well. Sick show. And then we get Mr. Knight at the end. And we're British, aren't we, Dan? We're from the country of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Don't talk about being British, because on the internet you'll be stuck like this, where we say wagwan all the time. In circumstances where you shouldn't say wagwan.
Yeah, you're not going to say that word again.
No. Never again. Not in my lifetime. But Stephen Grant did. And that made me want to hit him in the throat. We can talk about that now, because by the end of this episode, Mac is in the body full time for a while, isn't he?
Yeah, he's back in control.
Which, as soon as that happened, I was like, good. If that is how the first episode ended, I would have been more onto this show. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's a good episode 1. Boom. You spent an entire episode with this British guy. Now all of a sudden it's Max Spector. That would be a good way to open the show. Not I get Stephen Grant for 2 episodes and I want to hit him. By the later episodes, I don't have the want to hit him syndrome anymore, because he turns out to be like a nice character compared to Mac and blah 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 blah. But for these first 2, I'm like, can we get some Moon Knight? And there's a complaint I have across every episode. What's your opinion of episode 2, Dan?
Episode 2 had a good action scene at the end. That's all I remember about the episode. So
That's the thing.
Layla was introduced.
Yes. Layla was introduced, which, no, I'm going to call her Marlene because I don't care. Marlene was introduced. And then, for this episode, she's a sort of nothing character. She's like badass female trope. By, I'd say, like episode 4, where they're actually in the tomb and stuff. And then you see the relationship that she had with her dad and had with Mac and blah, 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 blah. That's more interesting. But for this first episode, she saws a Deus Ex Machina out of nowhere, just on a bike. And it's just a little bit, and her name's Marlene. Because, we can complain about this later. But, her name's Marlene. Episode 3.
Layla's more accurate to Egyptian, apparently.
I know 4 Laylas, and they're all white women. They're all British, in quotes. But we don't say Wagwan, so it's okay. Episode 3. Cairo. Begins... That's the problem. And when I think about this episode, all I can see is Oscar Isaac in a desert. I'm like, I don't want Oscar Isaac in a desert. I want Moon Knight in a city. The complete opposite. I don't want it. Well, what did happen in this episode? The whole situation.
Got our first tease of Jake.
Did we? Oh yeah, because he cut out and was
Everybody was dead.
Yeah. That's okay. I get that. That's fine. That's a good hint towards a post-credit scene, even though I wish that was the secondary plot in this show. You know? And that was already revealed
Season 2 that we're not going to get.
Yeah. Hopefully. I want a season 2. But that's because
we probably won't.
They ended it in a way I was interested more than I'm interested in this one season. In episode 3, he does the Cairo situation. Is this the one where they go to that little island thingy? With the guy who played Hannibal Lecter in Hannibal Rising, who sadly passed. But is that this episode?
Yes.
That entire scene, I wanted to die. Because I want more Moon Knight.
Didn't add anything.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm
All
saying...
we got was a Moon Knight action sequence.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm saying these could all be condensed down into a good episode and then have a good show come out of it. But at the end of the day, not really. Let's talk about Arthur Harrow in these 3 episodes. So it's sort of like mid-season. I know. No offense, I love Ethan Hawke, but he is a nothing character in this. Even towards the end, he starts off as an interesting way, putting glass in his Crocs and then going through all the culty people and then killing someone off the bat and then...
Yeah, I forgot my guy just had glass in his shoes the whole time.
I know. The thing I do like is he is awfully kind and it hurts sometimes. Yeah. Like, he's always like, please pass me that. Please pass me the scarab. No, come on, please. No, you don't want to do this. And I could get how he could be a cult leader. You know? Very easily. And now at the end of this episode, I'm most likely going to go on a ramble of what the show should have been, in my eyes. And Arthur Harrow needs more. Not definitely. I wouldn't say he's a terrible villain. He's a nothing villain. You know? He's in the same category as, like, Ghost from Ant-Man 2. Where it's like, what's your opinion on Ghost? What's your opinion on Arthur Harrow? It doesn't really matter, I guess, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But episode 4, The Tomb, where we spend an entire episode...
It finally picked up a bit.
Exactly. This should have been episode 3, even the end of episode 2. Do you know what I mean? If Marvel wants to carry on doing these shows where they're just really long films, you have to make it play out like a long film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even want a long film. In every episode, I still want a beginning, middle, and end. because that just
I still want a TV show.
yes, this is just a long film, but even so, it does it poorly. Because I'd say up until the beginning of episode 3 was like the beginning, you know? But then we get this middle part, I'd say all the way up until the end of episode 5. And then the climax happens in episode 6. That's one of the problems with the show is just poor pacing. Because I don't want bumbling Stephen Grant for however many episodes and then get a semi-good show in the middle, or actually like a quite good show, because from episode 4 to episode 5 is good, and then I get a good climax. You know, it makes me not want to revisit it because I'm like, because a lot of shows have that where they go, oh, you can skip season blank, you can skip episode blank, you can. This show is you can skip the first 3 episodes, which out of a 6-episode show, that's not how it should be. But whatever. The Tomb, not Moon Knight yet again, because Khonshu's fucked off. Oh yeah, and we didn't talk about it.
He's gone.
Episode 3 had one of my favourite small scenes when they're moving the stars along. It looks great, good CG. Actually, that was the moment where I'm like, okay, I kind of like Stephen Grant. Last episode made me like him, because he was actually helping the plot now. When he's not just a bumbling Jar Jar Binks character who gets through everything through luck and like just being stupid, when he's actually helping the plot by fixing like the puzzle that they had to do, doing the star thing, all of that, then I'm like, okay, fun character. But when, yeah, I don't want to go off on a rant on poor Stephen Grant. There's many times in the show I did have to remind myself, it's the same Donnie, it's the same Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we do have to say. He is great in this show.
Yeah.
No one gives a bad performance in this show. But Oscar Isaac definitely grabs the audience and goes, no, you're going to be watching me. And in the scenes between I flip back and forth, you're not going to be able to take your eyes off the screen.
Yeah, to be fair, I do keep forgetting it's Oscar Isaac playing both characters.
Which I'm like, that is great. That is what this is one of the things the show should have tried to succeed in. And it did. So congrats to the show. But it needed more of that, you know? Have you seen the movie Split? You seen that film? It's about DID and it's James McAvoy, and he does the same thing where he morphs from one character into another, and you almost can't tell, like it becomes a different person. It's the exact same thing in this show, and I love it. Like when he goes from Mark Spector to Stephen Grant in like the same shot, and I know he's changed just based on his facial expression alone. I'm like, this is a good show. Yeah. And then a scene happens where Stephen Grant like hits a fucking tin can, and then a mummy chases him for 2 seconds. That bit I'm a little bit iffy on. So episode 4, we don't even have Khonshu. So there's an entire like 2 episodes where we can't have Moon Knight in a Moon Knight show. He doesn't even
doesn't come back till the finale.
Yeah, he doesn't even do the thing what I was expecting, where in the run they're obviously playing on the Jeff Lemire run. That's the next episode in Asylum. I thought in at least one of these 2 episodes, while he doesn't have Moon Knight, he mimics a Moon Knight costume. You know, he puts a white thing around his head and then uses blood to make a crescent moon on his forehead, and then you see him go ham. Do you know what I mean? But we don't even get that. Which I'm like, okay. So I'm going a lot of through this show without the main or without the main status, the main superhero. So what show do you want to have? Do you want to have a superhero show? Or do you want to tell an adventure, like, psychological thriller? You know what I mean? This problem is a bit of an identity issue, which is quite ironic. What's your opinion on episode 4, The Tomb?
Probably one of the better episodes.
Yeah, I'd say there's several parts which are good, but then it all comes together to make a sort of bog standard nothing episode.
I like the stuff with Ethan Hawke's character
Yes.
and Layla.
Yes. That, not gonna lie, the part that grabbed me most in this show is that scene with Layla. When she's got to walk across the thing and she gets attacked by a mummy. And it's the most Netflix this show becomes. Where you just watch them fight for 5 minutes. And then by the end of it, she's left on the floor, breathless, battered, bruised. And then all of a sudden, Ethan Hawke's just monologuing at her. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Your head, Daredevil just had a fight and
Yes.
Pig walked out and started monologuing.
Exactly. And I'm like, it's not even like, during watching it, I wasn't like, oh, this is such a Netflix like rip-off. It's trying to be Netflix too hard. No, it just does a good thing in the genre where we're used to superhero fights being bombastic and semi-easy for the main character. But no, this one is just Layla getting beat and then her winning just due to her pure like strength and like will as a character, which I'm like, okay, I now like Layla. Or Marlene's, I apologise. Marlene, I
It's
now
Layla.
like.
Layla.
No, it's Marlene.
It's Layla Al-Fawley, or whatever her last name is.
And it's just, I'll tell you, because you probably don't know why they. Do you know the reason behind the second name, the surname?
It's like a dad's name.
Yes, her dad. Well, no. Her dad is actually a comic book character called the Golden Scarab. That's why they use that surname. So later on, spoilers, when she gets to episode 6 and she becomes a vessel for Taweret, I think that's how you pronounce it, she looks like a golden scarab. And I'm like...
Is that why I've been seeing Scallop?
Yeah, Scarlet Scarab, that's it.
Yeah. I may have butchered the name, but I got there.
And I'm like, okay, so why ain't she Marlene Al-Fawley? You know?
Because Layla's more Egyptian.
Is it?
That's what they said.
Is it?
I thought Marlene was more.
I know one Marlene. I know 4 Laylas.
Yeah.
And why change it? Oh, we can rant about that later. Episode 4. That's the thing with the show. It's such a nothing show for a while that we keep going off topic. It can't even grab our attention enough to speak about it for a while.
To the end.
Yeah. And then, like, this episode is nothing.
I expect to get shot.
Yeah, he gets shot, and that's the only important thing that happens in this episode. They find the tomb, he gets shot. That's all that's important.
Yeah. I knew something was going to happen when we got to the final bit that's been leading up to episode 4 of 6.
Yeah, I'm like, something's going to happen soon to shake up the order, you know? It can't just be Stephen and Matt going on a merry adventure. The one thing I do like about this episode, and the episode before this technically, is Mac and Stephen helping each other. You get the first hints of that, where even though Mac Spector's reluctant to give over the body, and vice versa, they begin to help each other. And the amount, like, when, like, the scene's good when he's fighting in episode 3, and all of a sudden Mr. Knight comes out and goes time out, and then as soon as he gets into trouble again, he's like, Mac.
Yeah.
And that sort of, what's the word? It gives away that in episode 6, we're going to get that more often, you know? It actually becomes a back and forth, which is interesting for the character. I don't think I've ever seen that in a Moon Knight comic, where they sort of...
Just switching.
Yeah, they're not secret identities. They just keep switching because they both have different sets of skills. Which I'm so glad mid-episode of episode 6, which I guess I'll just quickly speak about now, I was hoping that was the case, that they had different power sets. And technically they do. Like, Moon Knight has the flying capability and the moon... What are they called in the comics? Moon Crescents, I think. Crescent stars, whatever.
Yeah.
And then
You're the Moon Knight fan here.
I don't know. And then Mr. Knight has the batons. I wish it was a little bit more, but at least we had that. It wasn't just, I'm watching Moon Knight fight. Oh, he's changed outfit. I'm watching him fight again. Oh, he's changed outfit. There was a difference in style. Let's talk about episode 5.
Yeah.
my opinion, where the show got good. Which, since I'm 2 episodes away from it just being over, maybe, or 1 episode technically, maybe get good before that. You know? Maybe. Just a suggestion. Just be good. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about this with you. Was the Asylum portion necessary? Do you know when? Not when he's in the asylum talking to Tawaret, where he's with Dr. Harrow. Is that necessary at all?
I guess it's sort of like breaking him down and like making the guy lose his mind.
But you know how you could have done the same? Cut down half of the scenes where he keeps flashing back. Don't have them. Have the first bit where he's in the doctor's office, but you know when he runs away and opens Stephen Grant's like tomb, whatever,
Yeah.
where we get another Jake Lockley reference, technically. Have it play on from there, so he doesn't keep cutting back.
Yeah.
Because what do we get from that? All we get is him getting more angry at Dr. Harrow, him doubting his sanity.
I guess it's when it's like they're not, when like Stephen doesn't believe him, but the whole mother thing is sort of,
Yes, that's
they use that to,
that's the only part where it's used for character development with Stephen. That he
keeps sort of using it as, it's like whenever it's getting a bit too tough for Mark, he just jumps back there. It's like an escape.
Yeah, but that's what Stephen is. It's like a weird. I don't think it was necessary.
And
other
exactly
than that
flicking to
first scene.
Stephen.
What I would have loved is for them by the end they fight, and this would be sick because they're in the mindscape pretty much, or they're in like purgatory. Have them fight. You know, just
Yeah.
all of a sudden you don't need Khonshu because they're in purgatory. They suit up. They're trying to get through their differences. They fight. Stephen Grant gets better at fighting. Moon Knight shoves them, and they go into that office building, and then they talk about the mother thing. How better would that scene be if instead of Dr. Harrow, it's Mark doing it? Going, our scales aren't balanced, our mother is dead, and him going, nope. And then him going, well, let me call her, why don't I? And then putting up the thing, and then, do you get what I mean? Forcing Stephen to come to the reality, and then having a character building moment together. Because Stephen at that moment is having a character building moment, but in a vacuum with no one else. Because then by the end, the Dr. Harrow stuff just disappears. And I know it's meant to be the thing of kind of that they no longer believe they're insane, or they're working together enough to where it's not insanity. But that's not necessary. If it was just the purgatory aspect, they were being questioned by a doctor, and that's just... But then we don't need that because we have Tawaret, you know?
Yeah.
Like, this episode could be half the length it is, still hit the same impact, or even more, if you had them together more often through the character building moments, you know?
Yeah.
And then you scrap the Dr. Harrow stuff because it doesn't add much. It adds more scenes for Ethan Hawke to be a good actor in, and the same as Oscar Isaac. But can we not just have scenes for good acting's sake, and have purpose? That's the problem with all of these shows. It's like, okay, let's make a show. No, let's make a long movie. Okay, how do we do that? Well, we get a movie, and then we just add more useless scenes. That's what I feel like half of these shows are, where it's, I have a movie script, how to make it longer. You know? Which sucks.
Yeah. They need to actually do TV shows instead of long films.
Yes. Beginning, middle, and end of every episode, all coming together to make a beginning, middle, and end of a show with a climax, character development through all of the show, through every episode, and they can do the thing where every episode ends in a, ooh, I want to now watch the next episode, you know? The first episode had the Moon Knight punching the Jackal. Second episode had Mark taking over. You're able to do that well. because those two parts sort of are good, but you can't just have that be your entire show of, ooh, what's the next episode? Why? Because we ended it on Max Spector having the body. I'm like, yeah, but we're on episode 2 and nothing's happened. So
If this was a film, like, episode 1 would have been like the first 10 minutes, episode 2 the
yes,
next 10 minutes,
exactly.
episode 3 the next 10 minutes,
Yeah.
episode 4 probably like the next half hour,
And then episode 5.
episode 5 like the next half hour, and
Yeah.
then episode 6 climax.
The last like 20 minutes. You know?
Would have been a 2-hour film.
Yeah, like a long climax. Yes, exactly. And it's like, when you spread it across like this, you, for one, in a film, every scene is important. Every single scene. And you need to carry that over to when you make a long film. You know? Otherwise, you have bad pacing like this show does. Which I wish it didn't. But it does. And I'm not going to try and, like, persuade myself otherwise.
Yeah.
Let's talk about episode 5. Because it was actually a good episode, so I don't want to shit on it for too long. Other than the Dr. Harrow stuff, I like it.
Which really wasn't that much.
Yeah. The Tawarit stuff, I'm a little bit iffy on, because I don't think it fit the vibe or, like, worked well. But that's
Just a
why,
big hippo.
in my head, I'm trying to think of how to make the show better. And in my head, they do the Dr. Harrow stuff, but that is Tawarit taking on the form of Dr. Harrow to help them through the purgatory. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Save on CG because you don't have to have a hippo.
Exactly. So I can actually have some Moon Knight in my show beforehand, before this. Save it on the big hippo. Put Tawarit in as Ethan Hawke. There you go. You also... The actor's already there in the room. There you go. But no, this episode is actually good. It's the part where this episode didn't feel like an hour. Or it felt like an hour, but in a good sense. Where I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I've watched every single second of this show, of this episode, and liked it. The mother stuff, good. Fair enough, not Moon Knight, I believe, from the comics, but that doesn't matter. If you're doing your own thing, the origin of his DID has never really been explained in a comic, or they keep doing it where it's like, it's Khonshu, it's from a broken family, he's had it long before that, it's due to the moon, you know? So them going, no, Stephen Grant is a sort of barrier for Max Spector, that's okay. The thing of his brother dying, sure. That works.
The second his brother showed up, he knew he was dead, but...
Yes. As soon, because they never mentioned it, and I'm like, this kid is dead. This kid is dying right now. But that sort of adds to the idea of when Stephen and Mark are together, they're brothers in a sort of like metaphorical sense. Which works, given his origin and stuff. And then, we get a decent scene of Max Spector dying on the floor, and then we see his origin, which is very comic book accurate, and I applaud it in every sense. You know?
It still did the WandaVision thing, having a flashback episode right before the finale.
Yes. Which I'm like, ugh. They could have spread this episode across the entire show. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the subplot of, like, inside Steven's head, this is happening. And we don't have Max Spector dying and then needing to come back to life, and Khonshu being trapped, because at the end of it I thought that was kind of not necessary.
Khonshu just kind of got freed.
Of trapping Khonshu, yeah. It's like, no, the only thing that caused in between is them not to have Khonshu, therefore not having Moon Knight. But I'm like, I want Moon Knight, so why would I want to get rid of Khonshu? But this episode is actually good. And then it ends up him in the reeds. The problem I have, I say this episode is good, and then I go off on a rant about how it's bad. I do like this show. I just want to put that out there. I do like this show. And that's mostly because of episode 5 and episode 6.
Yeah.
Almost 100%.
We're not going to mention the Moon Knight, like, origin with Khonshu in episode 5.
Moon Knight, what?
When we show how we met Khonshu.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I meant it was comic book accurate and stuff.
Oh, fair enough.
Because it was, and they mentioned Bushman, and I'm like, Bravo, like,
Yeah, where is he?
that's okay. I'm okay with not having Bushman in the first season. But other than that, ugh. Other than that, that's okay. At the end of this episode, Stephen is
Ed.
wrecked. Yes. And then in the next episode, in the first 10 minutes, they get him back. And I'm like,
They went, oh crap, finale.
yeah, and I'm like, the scene between them where they create one balanced heart sort of thing and the gates open, that's a good scene. But I don't feel like it works because he died 5 minutes ago. And then he argues with Taweret for 2 seconds, turns around, he's in there, there's no fight, nothing happens. Then says,
I do like that I think if they were going to just have him turn around immediately, it might have been better if he just dived off the boat.
yeah. Like if it was immediate sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Instead of just shouting each other's names.
Yeah. I think they only wanted that because they wanted Max Spector to deny being happy in order to save Stephen. Which I'm like, works.
No, they wanted the final of the episode thing with Stephen dead.
But that would have worked better if he jumped off the boat to where it's like, no. And then he lands, fights a couple more mummies trying to get to Stephen. They finally hold hands, and as Mac tries to pull both of him out the sand, they both start turning to stone. And then the episode 6 opens with them discussing getting that balanced heart, and then you show Taweret on the boat as the scales finally go thing. But I don't feel like the death, either Max Spector's death and then Stephen's death in quotes, I don't think either of them are necessary to have him go through development, like character development, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing that they keep having flashback episodes and then... Do you know what I think it is? I don't think they know how to build a mystery well. And I know a mystery is...
Well, they can build a mystery, they just can't.
Yes, they can't do it without shoving it all into your face. And luckily for this show, episode 5 was actually good when they just shoved it all in your face. But that again makes for bad pacing. Which I'm like, God damn it, just make a good show, please.
If they're going to make it long films, I think they should just release them all at the same day.
I guess, but that, yeah.
Then you can watch it as a long film.
Yeah. And that may help for the pacing, watching it all at once. You know?
Yeah.
Because I
watch 10 minutes of a film and then I'll come back in a week.
Yeah, because I watched episode 1 to 3 all together as a rewatch sort of thing, and I had less problem with it while on the rewatch than I did the first watch. So you may have something to that, but yeah, again, I think that's the pacing issues of the show itself. It should work as singular episodes and then work better when they're all together. But instead, it barely works as a singular episode, and then all together, it is okay, I guess. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I think, I know I'm going slightly off topic here.
Yeah.
But when DC did their TV show, which is pretty much what Marvel does with Peacemaker, they made it a TV show.
Yes. Yeah.
Each episode's its own story, beginning, middle, end. It still has the bit at the end where it's like, ooh, come back next week.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's why Disney shows, we discuss them for a week and then they disappear. Because it's not... episode 1 wasn't a full story.
That's because they keep dropping movies after they finish.
But also, I think episode 1 is building up a mystery and the introduction without anything else. So we can barely discuss it. You know? Ugh.
It's why we were going to do a mid-season review for this show, but we never did.
Yeah, that's because episode 3 backwards was just mostly Stephen Grant. and nothing was explained or explored. I'm like, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point in even having 6 episodes then? I would have preferred like a mini series, like 3 episodes. You know,
Yeah.
you could still get, you can have a 3-hour film. There you go. But it's not even like that. Because if it was like Moon Knight Part 1, Moon Knight Part 2, Moon Knight Part 3, there you go. You could give it to them, okay. You're just making a long film, but you're splitting it up.
Yeah, just do slightly longer episodes
Yes.
then.
You're splitting it up, not because you want to make a show, but because you have a long movie pitch that is too long for cinemas. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. But no, you've made a 6-episode show that has terrible pacing. God, we haven't even gotten to the climax.
Oh.
Episode 6.
The shortest climax of any Disney
Yes.
Plus show.
And I
Even though we got told
Yeah.
that if there were 6 episodes, they were going to be like 50 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. It's quite strange.
Somebody lied.
Yeah. Not, in my opinion, one of the better climaxes of the Disney Plus shows. I like the ending scenes with Kang in Loki. The Hawkeye climax is nothingness. Nothing.
Hawkeye's probably the best one before this one.
I would give that to
just because it
WandaVision.
actually wraps up the story.
I would give it to WandaVision only because I don't care for the Hawkeye show.
That's
and then
fair.
the Falcon and the Winter Soldier one was climactic in the moment, but thinking about it now, I don't care about it. You know?
But it's just he gets the suit, and then it's just a long fight, and then a speech.
I think for that, for the Falcon and Winter Soldier, you need all those episodes beforehand, and then you watch that episode. But in this, I'd rather watch episode 5 and episode 6. If I'm going to rewatch it again, I might just rewatch those 2 and then go, okay, and that was the Moon Knight show. And I'm done. You know?
Yeah. Hour and a half film, nice and short.
Yeah. Which sucks, because I want to enjoy this entire show. But, okay, let's talk about episode 6. So you get the scene with those 2 becoming friends. They then go back into their body, which I'm like, oh, so you killed them to have character development, but it doesn't progress the plot. I'm like, okay, whatever.
It is more character-driven than plot-driven, this show.
Yes, which I'm okay with that, but you at least need a foundation of a plot, you know? This plot is sort of like bullet points without any flowing, natural... The plot doesn't add to the character development. If you're going to have a character development show, make sure the plot drives that. But it doesn't really. The characters drive their own character development, and then the plot is just sort of like the B plot that happens. You know? But then episode 6, and then you get Harrow go in, and a huge fucking crocodile appears, and it's Power Rangers, and I'm like, okay, you're getting interested now. You're getting interested. Well done. And then, what else happens in this? And then Marlene,
fights.
In big capital letters.
Yeah,
she then
Layla.
No, Marlene. She then frees Khonshu, which I'm like, okay, so you freed him to then not help. And he ends up not helping that much, other than distracting a Harrow.
He just fights
Amit, the fucking Godzilla motherfucker, and then gives Moon Knight back his powers. You know?
Yeah.
Which I'm like, ugh.
So I still don't get how Arrow was able to use the powers of Amit, but Mark couldn't. They were both in the same situation.
Yeah.
But...
They could have explained it as the staff he uses was passed down to him from Amit's last warrior right before Amit got taken, and it holds an essence of Amit's power. You know?
Yeah.
One sentence, that's all you needed. But they don't explain anything in these shows.
This happened.
They want
what about Harrow being her Khonshu's old man?
Which I'm like,
that's
interesting. And then we proceed to do nothing to it.
It gives him some sort of motivation to want to go after Amit. But
that's one of the more interesting thing in episode 2, where after Harrow is with Steven, Khonshu's talking, and Arthur Harrow's going, he wants you to kill me, doesn't? Oh, wants you to kill me,
Yeah,
doesn't
he
he?
knows exactly what he's
He
saying.
knows exactly what he says. If he played with that more and was like, no, Khonshu is dumb, I can predict everything he says. He's been saying it for generations, and he's still the angry, bitter old bird that he is. This,
Khonshu's an asshole anyway.
yes, the villain problem is us.
Yeah, Marvel's villain problem. Bring it back. Let's go.
Yes, but that's the thing with this; it's overshadowed by the poor pacing. So you're like, oh yeah, Arthur Harrow's a sort of bland villain, and then the pacing's bad. But then if you get rid of the pacing and you just look at the character alone, you go, fuck, the villain's bad as well. You know?
Hero's good.
Like, so, who's good in the show? Tawaric, get out of here. You're a hippo. Someone. And then Moon Knight's on screen and I just start clapping. And then he disappears after 2 seconds of screen time. And I'm like, oh.
Shimmy, bro, you guys. No, you didn't get much, actually.
No,
it's not much fighting in
not
this
at
show.
all. Which I'm like, you could do, but you don't give me anything else. I'm like, oh. Okay, episode 6.
Yeah,
And then
episode 6. Gods and Monsters.
yeah, and then Marlene becomes the avatar of Taweret, which bugs me. Because we set up Khonshu wanting to have her as an avatar, and we could have paid that off. But instead, we give her...
Yeah, but she said, bro.
Which is interesting as a character. But then if she fought her way out by herself, using her skill, her weaponry that she already had, that would be more interesting than her getting a random...
I guess the thing is just... Hawara is actually nice god.
Yeah, but I'm like...
She's just an asshole.
It doesn't add anything other than a cool visual. And we could have got that for 2 seconds.
Like, they don't ever actually say whether she gave up being the Avatar as well, and it was just temporary.
That's the thing.
I think she said it was just going to be temporary, but...
That's the thing where they never explain anything. And they leave everything
just
open.
Tell whatever account, the hippo is probably more likely to let go than Khonshu was.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Okay. I'll come back to that. But let's carry on for now. And then Ethan Hawke takes down all of the gods' avatars, which I'm like, I call bullshit.
Yeah, my guy's just a beast.
Yeah, he takes down 6 of them. What he should have done was himself snuck into the tomb beforehand while his cult people are distracting. Most of them get killed by the gods, but as he does that, behind all the gods, he breaks open Amit's thing, and then Amit comes out and eats all the avatars. Or kills them all, you know? Not he just hits a staff and then we cut away and then I no longer care. You know?
They're all dead. Apart from that one guy who's dying.
Yes, yes. Which I'm like, that would be a much cooler scene. Even if we get it in shadow, you know, as he smacks it with the cane, the crocodile comes out in shadow, and then it pans over to the wall and we see a huge shadow of a crocodile creature who then goes down and you see 6 people get like chomped or hit, you know?
Yeah.
That's more interesting than Arthur Harrow just pointing a stick and then we cut away. Which I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. Arthur Harrow's not really a physical threat.
But he's barely
He is at the same time.
But yes, and then he's barely a threat anyway. It's weird.
Psychologically speaking.
Yes. Yes. Okay, and then we get a fight.
Not really a threat.
With Moon Knight going back and forth with the Mr. Knight thing, which I appreciate, and
that was
and Marlene as the Scarab, whatever we can call it that. And then they're losing, and then they cut away, and he's down. Which didn't annoy me in the episode, but it annoyed me when I thought about it again. You know?
Yeah, you just realised there's a whole climax fight and you hadn't seen it.
Yes. Which, if this was a mini-series, I think the cutting away would work better.
Yeah.
You know? But because it's a long show, I'm like, why? Why didn't you just
It
show it
worked
to me?
with mystery, but we'd already
Yes.
Had the cutting away stuff with Jake Lockley, that would have been a time to maybe reveal him.
Do you know? Or do you know what would have been even better? He does that. He does the eye roll to the back of the head thing, but we stay with him, and we watch the Moon Knight costume form into something else, and Marlene being
Yeah, that's where we get the reveal of him.
but he never says a word. He never says
He
he's
just
Jake
fights.
Lockley. He just fights, and he kills them all. He beats Ethan Hawke, and he does the typical superhero thing where he's punching him in the face, and then all of a sudden he snaps back into Moon Knight, and he goes, "What the hell?" You know?
Yeah.
So when
It's easier to show a massacre than it was to show people being massacred.
yes, then it would have that would have been good because we would have got the setup in other episodes because everything's nice in threes in it. You do what would have been nice: set up in an earlier episode, set up the sarcophagus, set up that, and then we get the payoff in the post credits, or we get hintings towards what's future to come. But instead, we just get cut away, and they don't build. You know, he cuts away in an earlier episode. We then see another sarcophagus, and if we are smart enough, we can put those together. So that's building. That's building suspense.
Really did.
Yeah, that's building suspense and mystery. And then we get another flashback or another cutaway, which is the same as the first one we got. We should be building tension instead of having it sort of flat and stagnant.
Yeah.
You know? Which that would have made it better. And then Khonshu is just fighting a huge crocodile in the background this entire time. Which I'm like, okay.
Was a sick shot when Arthur Harrow was walking towards him and then that fight was going on in the background.
That was amazing. But what I would appreciate, when they had Ethan Hawke down and they went to go merge their bodies, something like special happened. You know, it wasn't just he spoke and then Amit got sucked into him. He had to he grabbed Ethan Hawke's character and grappled Hook up to the mouth of Amit, you know?
Yeah.
And then grappled Hook up there, used Ethan Hawke like a shield and flew into its mouth, you know? And then a huge blast of energy happens. Khonshu is gone to be in the next scene, and then Layla sees a moon-shaped like cape fly away into a tomb, so she then goes there where she sees Moon Knight clutching at the corpse in quotes of Ethan Hawke, even though he's still alive, and his eyes are glowing purple, and Khonshu's behind him going, kill him, and then Steven and Layla team up to persuade Mac not to, and then the scene plays on. That's a lot more interesting than they take him to a tomb, they circle him, they then do a chant, and then it all works as planned, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we talk about post-credits.
Yeah, post-credit scene.
Good.
Jake Lockley, finally.
Good. It's a good post-credit scene, because now we're interested in another season. You know?
Yeah. But they keep saying we're not getting another season, so...
Yes. Which I'm like, well, then what's the point in doing the post-credits then? Set up another film. Like I said, this should have been a setup for God the God Butcher. We're dealing with Egyptian gods, and one of the next villains in the MCU is a god killer, even if it's just a basic
I think originally,
thing,
though, the show was meant to come out after Thor.
Yeah. But that's the thing, we've seen them change their plans due to schedules and stuff, so they can just do it again. We know they can. So why didn't we have a scene where it's...
Because they want Moon Knight to seem disconnected for some reason.
Which is weird. You did the Netflix approach, even though it has to be in the MCU, because otherwise what's the point in making it? And I know that sucks to be like, oh, we can't just get standalone stuff anymore. But when you're the MCU and you make a project that isn't, that then becomes unnecessary. You know?
And if they were gonna make it not part, they would have said by now.
Yeah, and they should have built up.
Because the general assumption is, if they announce something, it is.
Yeah, they should have built up the franchise. Because if this isn't in the MCU, it's not building anything. You know?
Yeah, because you could just watch this without having watched anything.
Yes, which is good.
Which is good.
And that still works, but...
This is such a big franchise now. It is difficult. got to get people to come in and not have to watch everything.
Yeah, but that's okay. But it's so disconnected. It almost seems odd during
There's
episodes.
not even like a reference.
Yeah. Okay, the
Anything.
post-credit scene is interesting. Ethan Hawke's dead, which I'm like, good, because I didn't really want him coming back.
Yeah, he's gone.
And it had the moon limo, it had Conchu in a suit, and we get Jake Lockley all within 2 minutes. I want to know, how did this post-credit scene have better pacing, have better character building, have more interest than most of this show?
Because Marvel knows how to post-credit scene.
And they don't know how to show.
They are post-credit scenes. They got it down.
Yeah, they know after movie, they know after post-credit scenes, but they don't know how to long movie. But they.
This is probably their best attempt at a long movie, a TV show.
Yes, in my opinion, this is still one of the best shows, just because.
They're learning.
Yes, and that's because compared to the other shows, I don't care for them. The only reason I care and get not angry but a little bit heated while talking about the show is because I really wanted it to be good. And it's good in elements, but it's letting me down in other places, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
So now we've given our consensus. Let's jump to what do you see this leading into?
I want a season 2.
I don't think they should do a season 2. I reckon it should be a film.
Yeah, that could work, but I don't think it would work to have Moon Knight the show and then Moon Knight the movie. You know?
Yeah, but they're doing all these Disney Plus shows have led into something.
Yeah. I'm okay
like
with this.
WandaVision, Doctor Strange, Falcon Winter Soldier, Captain America 4, Loki season 2, all that. Hawkeye, just
that's the problem with this show. This could have been a low-budget TV show, which, if you got Oscar Isaac's approval, there could be one season every year. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
like a normal TV show is. And that could have been, okay, so you get Hawkeye, which is one season. You then get WandaVision, which goes into a movie, and then you get Moon Knight, the long TV show. You know?
Yeah.
So you get 3 different types of Disney Plus shows. But instead, it's just sort of nothingness. Do I want Bushman? Yes. Do I want another villain with him? I want 2 villains for the next season. I want...
Yeah, for better pacing.
Yes. I have loads of ideas.
If they do 2 villains, it's going to be the twist reveal.
I wanted a twist reveal
that's
in
how
the
they
show.
do things.
Okay, let me pitch to you No, shut up.
Villain that didn't appear until the final episode.
Yes. Let me pitch what I wanted this show to be quickly, and then we'll wrap up. I take out the Dr. Arthur Harrow stuff, replace it with that being the avatar in the purgatory world for Taweret. You know? She doesn't...
Yeah.
Oh, Doctor... And you see in, like, reflections, he's actually a bestial hippo creature. There you go. Boom. Doesn't appear in episode 6. You don't need it. Isn't as kind, but a little bit more forthright. Kind, but more pushing towards them having balance. You don't have him die. Well, I guess you have to have him die to have this whole scene. You don't get Stephen Grant dying. That's not necessary. You know? Don't need to leave us on a cliffhanger like that. I want the first 4 episodes to be condensed so heavily. Where they go to the Hannibal Rising guy island, or whatever it was, you can cut out most of that, you know?
Yeah, it's no offense, like, obviously the guy died sadly, but he didn't need to be here.
Yeah, he didn't add a lot, but do you know what would have added something? Do you know the woman Marlene spoke to?
Yeah.
Who gave her the fake passport? That's Bouchamp now. The person who takes them on a tour and flies them into Egypt, Bouchamp. The person who gets them the cloth by them sneaking in, or what would be sick, Marlene, they get a plane, they hire Bouchamp is a pilot, flying overhead of an Egyptian like museum, or it can still be the same thing. It's a rich guy's house. They fly overhead. Marlene is a sniper in the plane, or sniper in like a forest far away. Moon Knight flies down from the plane, lands in, and then we get like a cool fight scene that way, you know? And then he grabs the key to the tomb of whatever, you know? Or they hear that Arthur Harrow has one scarab, but but in fact they came in a pair, so they're gonna go find the other one. You know, you build that up, you get more Moon Knight. I want somewhere in between episode 1 and episode 2, Moon Knight doing Moon Knight stuff. You know, one night when he goes to sleep, we see what he then does, which is him, Max Spector as Moon Knight, investigating Doctor or just Arthur Harrow, but superhero stuff happens along the way. Like he sees a mugging, so he goes to go deal with that, you know?
Yeah.
You could put him more in the MCU. You could, I don't know, what could it be? Give me like, there's a scroll or something that's on a rampage. Something basic level which you could add, but make it still work, you know? That could be interesting. What I want, okay, hear me out. Arthur Harrow is Werewolf by Night. All of the Jackal stuff is Arthur Harrow turned into this thing. This is just spitballing. What happened was Khonshu, when Arthur Harrow didn't want to be with Khonshu anymore, Khonshu cursed him to when the moon rises, he becomes a beast of the night. You know?
Yeah.
Immediately, within one sentence, that's more interesting. He can still have the cult stuff, and he could want to release Amit, because if he was under his avatar, they could release the curse. And it's a double thing, because it will release the curse and piss off Khonshu. You know? Because then...
You'll love pissing off Khonshu.
Yes. Because then Arthur Harrow becomes both a physical threat and a sort of mental, psychological threat, both at the same time. And we don't get random Jackal stuff where they're invisible. And it doesn't even have to be Werewolf by Night. He could just be a werewolf. Or he could be some other creature, you know? You could allude to him that a lot of other people have this curse, setting up a Werewolf by Night, you know? That would be interesting. Or he's some sort of vampire where he can only walk during when the moon has risen. That's more interesting than him releasing Jackal creatures, you know? And what would be interesting was that Arthur Harrow can do the thing, or he can bite you and pass on the curse, but Amit has given him an amulet, or he's found an amulet, that when he does that, they will die if they're unbalanced, and turn into one of his minions if they're balanced. So we can have the cult, but instead of him shooting him, it's a long fight between a werewolf and Moon Knight, where Moon Knight then gets bitten and then goes on, because he's unbalanced, he goes into purgatory. And then we get episode 5. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work in certain ways, but the part where Arthur Harrow like goes randomly to the guy's island, and that fight scene, and he rocks up there for 2 minutes, says a couple of things, and then walks away, and sets up Descent in like madness. You could still do that, you know?
Yeah.
But now it's a werewolf creature saying it, as he has like Marlene and Moon Knight pinned against a wall, you know? And then the moon starts to disappear, so he has to run away in time for when he becomes Arthur Harrow. He can't just get his face punched in, you know?
Yeah.
That's more interesting. I wish this show was really good. I wanted it to be good. It's good, but not good enough. But it could be better. Whatever the fuck that guy says from Wonder Woman 2.
Oh yeah.
So what's your final thoughts then?
It's probably the best Disney Plus show so far,
Yeah.
but it's still got its issues.
Yes. Which I don't see them making a good Marvel show. You know?
If they carry on with this.
There needs to be something more. A director or writer needs to come in, or they hire. And I don't know if they have like show directors sort of thing, where
they have directors and they direct the show.
But I want an overall show sort of person
Showrunner.
Yeah, showrunner. That's the word I'm looking for. Like the Russell T Davies to the Doctor Who. You know, you need someone over it all, which you could have it so he's the same person on every show, so you get some sort of feel of consistency. You need to get someone from the mainstream. Bring in a Russell T Davies. Bring in a Moffat. You know, someone who knows how to run a show, not just direct a movie. That's what they need. That's our final thoughts. Moon Knight, good. Should have been better. We're hopeful for future shows. Are we? I'm not really interested in Miss Marvel. Or I'm interested in She-Hulk, the character. But now that they've said it's a
She-Hulk could
comedy,
actually be
yeah. But now that they've
a
said it's a
TV show.
comedy, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, well, the next time we'll actually no, next time we're here we'll be Doctor Strange, but next time after
Yeah.
that will be Miss Marvel.
Yeah, that's true. When are they gonna? Are they doing a new like Disney Plus Day or something? When are they gonna announce more shows? Because this is interesting. Because now we only have
We've
two.
got like 47,000 coming.
No, because we've only got 2 Marvel shows, don't we? Coming up.
Secret Invasion, Ironheart,
Secret
Armor
Invasion.
Wars,
That's how much you know what I
Go,
forgot about them.
Agatha.
Yeah, see, there you go. Don't need it. Didn't. That's how.
You don't need announcements. We got a lot coming.
That's how much I don't care about those shows.
I think it's only those 2 coming this year now.
Yes. Okay. No, that might have been why, because I completely forgot all those others existed.
They're not really advertising them because
Yeah.
they just did announcements.
But fair enough. So there we go. So we hope to see everyone come back to watch the rest of our Disney Plus shows, because we'll we'll just carry on doing it because you might as well. I want to tell Dan, and I might as well have a mic in front of me. But there you go. That's our opinions on Moon Knight season as a whole. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for coming.